When you don't have 20 minutes to watch a full review, when you're not looking for a how to play or an hour-long playthrough, and let's be honest, when the interest is a little lower too, that's why we have 6 small box games for you. Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today we are reviewing another 6 small box games. Granted, this one's more medium-sized. The problem is, because I like to overlay past songs onto it, I can't be like, otherwise I would have gone like, that's why we have 5 small box and 1 medium box game for you. I would try to be cute with it, but I can't because of the overlay from past videos. Anyways, we have 5 small box games and 1 medium-sized box for you to go for us to cover today. Let's go ahead and dive into them. I'll do these in no particular order. Timestamps and links to everything. Well, timestamps to everything down below. I don't know if I'll have links to everything down below. But let's go ahead and jump into this with, let's start off with 9 Lives over here. 9 Lives from Allplay is a trick-taking game. I'll try to show you the components and stuff whenever I can over here. But we have your own individual dial over here, which you'll be tracking the scores. Not individual dial, I apologize. That's not individual at all. You have your overall thing over here. You have your cats that you're placing out. And then you're going to have your hands of cards. So you're going to have a hand of cards in the game. And the suits on the back of the card are visible. So you have the suits in play, which is going to be a very important conceit of the game. Because what you're doing in this game is you are doing basic trick taking. So you're going to have basic trick taking, everyone's going to have the hand of cards, and then you're going to lead a trick and see how many tricks you can win. Now, the area where things are a little different or interesting is the way you're going to be scoring, and, well, let's talk about the things that are different. So if you're used to standard trick taking, just go ahead and deal these out over here. We have our hands over here, and they're going to be variable colors in the game based on player count, but you have your hand, you go ahead, you take a look over here, and you're like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and play a 2 of yellow. Everyone's going to go ahead and follow, but again, keep in mind, you can see the back of other people's hands, so you know what suits they have, which is an important part of the game. That's the first area where 9 Lives is different. The second area is whoever wins the trick. Let's go ahead and play this out over here. So we're going to have, someone else go ahead and plays. They don't know they have the 9, so they can guarantee the win. Maybe they go ahead and place the 9. The other player places or whatever, and boom, they go ahead and win the trick. Now, the person who wins the trick can take back any card except for the one that they used to win the trick. So they can go ahead and take back, let's say, the 2 over here. It doesn't really matter, the 2 and 3, because either way, the rest are going to be gone. We're going to go ahead and take it back into our hand. So that's the second aspect that's different. So the first aspect is different. You see these suits of players, of the other players. Second aspect that's different is you pull back a card into your hand. Past that is going to have some typical trick prediction. In the game, you can place a cat down. Before you start the round, you're going to place down a cat at one of these numbers over here, and that's going to say, I'm winning either 2 or 6 tricks. Either of those is fine, and that's a nice little twist because of the fact that it means players don't know if you're going for only 2 or possibly 6. So it's a little bit obfuscated because it's either a mid-range or higher number. Or alternatively, you can place your cat down sideways. You'll get less of a reward, but instead you'll go ahead and be able to have more flexibility. 2, 6, 3, or 7 will be the tricks that you're trying to win. When you're right, you go up on this track. When you're wrong, you lose based on the difference between how wrong you were on this track over here. And then eventually someone's going to win the game, or you'll play the full rounds and see who has the most points. Someone will either cross 9, or you'll play the full, I believe, 4 rounds. That's basically how you're playing through 9 Lives. So basic trick taking, some trick prediction, some interesting elements in the sense that you see the suits in play and you take back a trick. So, rating-wise on this one, or general opinion, I think it's interesting. I think it is different. I wasn't overly wowed by it. I do like the idea of seeing the suits, and I wouldn't want that in every trick-taking game, but I like every trick-taking game I own having something different that gives you a reason to play that trick-taking game. Seeing the suits is a little twist. Okay, great. Well, if you see this as suits, then how are you going to adapt to that information? Taking back a card is a little twist. The prediction aspect and the variable aspect where maybe I'm going for 3, maybe I'm going for 7, you don't really know, and you'll find out as we play, but it puts you on edge because you can't perfectly know. That's a nice little twist. I think the area where 9 Lives lost me a bit is the fact that the process of pulling back cards into your hand puts this interesting mental math in the game that is processable. You can try to figure out, okay, well, how many tricks do I need to win? Because normally in trick-taking games, you're like, okay, great, there's going to be like 8 rounds of play. There's not guaranteed 8 rounds of play or whatever hand size there is in 9 Lives because players are going to be pulling back tricks. So it obfuscates the math of how many hands are left, which is something you can work out, but puts an extra level of work into it as opposed to the typical trick-taking that I'm used to. So I felt that the extra gimmicks in the game were nice, but the overall payoff versus the downsides of it were okay. For me, it's still a good game. I still enjoyed it, but definitely not one that wowed me. It's a 3 out of 5.
From there, let's go ahead and dive into the next one. Let's do a non-tricking game. Let's do Monster Chase. This can be from Machette over here, from Scorpion Mask over here. Monster Chase is definitely a kid's game designed by Antoine Baza, and it's going to have players operating a memory game, if I can open this box, a memory game where you're going to be scaring off the monsters around the bed. So we have our closet in the game, which is an important part. You have your closet, because the closet is where you're scaring the monsters back into. But let's take this out for a second and take all the components out so you can actually deal with those. And there's two ways to play. There's the basic and the advanced. Honestly, even if you're playing with little kids, as long as you're playing, you should be playing the advanced version. If they're playing on their own, that'd be a different story. But if you're playing the game, just play the advanced mode because it's not that big a deal. And otherwise, the game is too easy. This is an easy game for sure. Make no mistake. This is a game where, again, you're playing with kids. It's a kid-focused game. You're gonna have a little monster over here, like so. So this monster, let's make them all the same side because that's an important part of it. We have our bed. So you're gonna shuffle the cards for either short, medium, or long game. 10, 15, or 20 cards. Just gonna put a bunch of cards out right here, and you're going to go ahead and reveal a monster on one side of the bed. Now you're actually gonna be using all sides of the bed slowly, which is how you lose, but we're just gonna show you a monster first and then go. So a player at the table is going to say that this monster is afraid of the car toy. We're gonna flip this over. It's not the car toy. We're going to flip one side of the monster. We're gonna flip back. The next player goes. They say maybe it's over here. It's not. We flip a monster, and then we go ahead and the next player goes. Maybe it's over here. Still not. We flip the monster, and now we have a fully complete monster. We're going to take a new card from the deck. Sorry, that's out of play. We'll take a new card over here and put this into play. So now we have a new side of the bed being occupied. Now, the way you lose the game is if all four sides of the bed are occupied, you're going to lose the game because the monsters have overwhelmed you in the game, or if monsters to be pulled when you have all four occupied. So you need to make sure you get rid of the monsters. But you have to try to remember as you go because now we have the teddy bear. So the next player goes and we pull over that. Nope, still not enough. We'll go ahead and figure it out. We pull over that. Nope, still not enough. Okay. And there's a memory game because monsters are going, nope, still not enough over here. Although there's special rule cards in here that are going to give you different things to be mindful of. But again, we pull out another monster. Now eventually, oh no, look, we have this. And again, this would be on this side over here. But it's scared of the airplane. So how we deal with that? Well, now it's our turn. And we're going to go ahead and I believe this was the airplane. I think maybe it was this one. Let's go for this one. Yes, the airplane. The monsters get scared off underneath and you put it into the closet. You go to the box, you dump it into the closet, the monster is scared away. That's the general idea of the game. It's a memory game because as new monsters come out, you have to remember where past toys are hidden. Because, well, that's what you need to scare away the monsters. So at first it's just pure random chaos, but as you play it more, you'll start moving to a degree of memory as you try to figure out, okay, well, I know the robot was somewhere, and now the robot monster's in play, how do we take it out? So it starts off hard, but once you are playing the game, especially if multiple players and all remembering a little bit here, a little bit there, it very quickly becomes an easy to deal with puzzle. So again, it's just a memory game. It's a cooperative memory game for kids. It's very accessible, very easy to play, which brings us to rating on this one. Monster Chase is fun for the appropriate age range. The appropriate age range is 3+ on the box. And I think that's an appropriate age range. I can't say for sure. I played it with my 4-year-old, so I know he's enjoyed it, and he likes it the most. My other kids have thought it was fun, but it's not the one they'd pull out in a request, nor is it the one that I'd pull out in a request. I think if you're looking for a game that your kid will enjoy and you will tolerate, this is okay. For me, it's still a 3 out of 5. I tend to, when I'm rating kids games, I still try to rate them based on how much enjoyment I get as well as the parent who's involved in the kids game. And for me, meaning I'm not rating it based on playing it with adults, but I am rating it based on the experience I got playing with kids. There are many kids games that I have a lot of fun with and I think are excellent and I am always down to play. And then there's games I will reluctantly play with them because they want to. This is short, plays in 15 minutes or so. They enjoy it, or specifically my 4-year-old enjoys it, and I'm willing to play it. It's a 3 out of 5. Not a bad one. I think there are games I'd recommend more that I enjoy just as much, and they are also invested. And that to me is the ideal kids game, where everyone's having fun. So anyway, I mean, I'm not having fun, just, you know, it's okay. Anyways, moving on from there, let's go ahead to Find Finley. Let's do a big box over here. I don't know if I'm going to bother pulling this one out. I'll go ahead and show you just the general idea is you're trying to find Finley. There's a puzzle here of where Finley is on the board, and you're working together with other players, all being given certain clues, because you have certain scenarios of where Finley is on this giant amusement park over here. But what the players are given are these certain clues, or there's clues in the game that together will all define where Finley is, so you can figure it out. You know, he entered on a monorail over here. He was seen passing over here. And you're all together trying to figure out where he must be now based on certain criteria. There were cameras set up in this region that didn't see him. So you're like, oh, well, if he came this way, he didn't go that way, he couldn't be here, he must be over here. Now, you don't figure that out right away, but as you exchange cards, which all have these specific scenario clues in them, then you'll get to the point where you can deduce where Finley is. That's the core idea of the game. There's a trading mechanism in the game where you're all given a certain number of cards, and then you have to start, you know, trading cards with the center and putting the cards and swapping cards around. And so ultimately it results in a game where it's about a combination of deductive information as you gather clues, and then figuring out what you can make assumptions about to a certain extent. It's a cute little game. I think it's fine at what it does. I think there are better in the genre. My specific complaints: the idea of having deductive information where the clues will all lead to a conclusion. I like that as a system. There's a lot of games that do that, both kid-friendly and adult-friendly. Lots of games do that kind of system, and I think this is fine at what it does. I think the issues I had were some of the wording on the cards wasn't always clear or specific, or just weirdly phrased in a way that sometimes you had the information and it wasn't even 100% clear from it. And then the second issue I had is, and this is a system I've had a problem with in other games too, which is the way the cards are bartered back and forth. It can result in players getting dead information. So one player might be able to cycle cards properly, the other player might just get repeated cards and dead information, which is less of a rewarding experience for that player through no fault of their own. So ultimately, to me, in the genre of looking for these kinds of deductive information, I thought it was fine. I do think I drastically prefer the key from Haba Games. I think they do a much better job as far as giving you that kind of experience, but in a way that I thought was much better for the players overall, versus Finley I felt was good, but not best in class. It's another 3 out of 5 for me. We got 3 of those so far. 3 out of 5 for me so far. Again, it was fine. I had fun with it. I just think I'd rather play other games that do the concept better. From there, let's go ahead and move into Sandbag. Let's move our way slowly up over here. Sandbag is going to be a trick-taking game where you're trying to lose tricks. And I'll show you how, again, I'll put some cards out over here. I'll show you the basics. We have our little promo pack for, Bezier Games, other game titles in here. But I'll show you the basics of how it plays. The general idea is in the game, you can be divvied up some cards over here, and then once you have your hand of cards, let's go ahead and shuffle it up and give some. I'm just going to put a handful of cards. I'm not going to worry about the count, but you're going to be given a hand of cards over here, and then you're going to start by looking at your hand of cards. So I'll just take a chunk of cards here, and I'm going to look at these, and this is my hand. Great. These are the cards I have. The problem is you're trying to lose tricks, which means, first of all, rockets are great, because rockets are -5 points. You're guaranteed to lose. The only downside is, while you're guaranteed to lose the trick, which you want, you're also giving -5 points to the person who wins the trick, which is good for them. You're trying to lose tricks because positive points are worth points, and you don't want to win those cards, but if you give a rocket to somebody, they are also going to benefit from that exchange. So it's a kind of a weird win-win situation in the game. But you start the game by passing a card to your left and your right. I'm going to take my 10 and my 8, and sometimes I'd give more thought. Like, for example, there is an argument to be made where I play my 3 and my 0, because that would eliminate me having any cards in purple, and then I can play my other cards off suit and lose the tricks. But that's a little too clever for right now. I'm just going to give the 10 and the 8 to other players, and they're going to give cards back to me. I'm going to take 2 random cards because, I'm just trying to show you, but I'd probably get higher cards back. You're also going to put cards in front of you, which you generally want to be I'd say low but not super low cards in front of you. Maybe I'll put my, maybe right now, that's an interesting example. Maybe now I'll do my 3 and my 0. Maybe this is an interesting time. So this is interesting. So I'm putting these in front of me, and I'll also take one more card as a sandbag. So I'll take that 8 that I got and put it down as a sandbag. That's a card you can play at any point to guarantee lose the trick. Okay? From there, you start playing cards. Then what's going to happen is players play a card. So let's say if someone plays a suit over here, and it's a 5 purple. Well, this is great for me because I'm going to go ahead and follow it up with a 7. I have no purple in my hand. So I'm going to follow it up with a 7, which guaranteed means I'm losing the trick. Now, there are some aspects here which I'm not heavily going to get into. The trump suit is whichever has the most cards in front of all the players in terms of their balloons, but I'm going to play a 7 over here. Another player might look at their hand and see that they only have cards that are higher than a 5, which means they'd probably win the trick. So what they can do is, let's pretend they have let's find a higher than 5, let's pretend they have a 9 over here. What they can do is they can trade it to any player who has these in front of them. So they can say, you know what, I'm going to trade this for your 0. I'm going to put that in front of you, and then we're going to put this 0 in play. So effectively, players can trade with the players in front of them to take those cards from them, which is why you're trying to put cards out that are low, but not super low. But you're also, I will lose 3 points in the round if this is still in front of me. That's why you don't want to go too high, because high cards aren't desired, and they're going to leave you with chunks of points. So it's not a good way to bury your high cards, but the low cards are good in your hand. So that's kind of the core concept. Another player might go ahead and say, I also only have large cards, or, well, if he had purple, you have to play purple. But you play a rocket over here, they might go ahead and, self-destruct the trick, but they give points to the player who wins. That's the general idea. You're going to play across 3 rounds. You add up your score after each round. There are some compensating factors for whoever's winning or losing, but the general idea is you are trying to sandbag yourself. You can play your sandbag to guarantee lose a trick. Once your sandbag's gone, there's no guarantees past your, managing your hand, and you're trying to avoid getting points from other players by making sure you lose as much as you possibly can in the game. That's the core idea of the game. It is a messy rulebook. I left out a lot of... It's not a messy rulebook. It's actually, I'd argue it's almost clear, maybe clear. It's clear enough. It's clear enough as far as the rulebook goes. But the rules are not intuitive. They have so many edge cases and exceptions. They have adjustments for winning or losing. It was definitely not the easiest game to teach or process. It is a little confusing. You can get the core concept pretty quickly. Lose tricks. That's a very core concept that's easy. All the other rules get complicated. Even things like the sandbags that you trade with other players. First time I played, I thought those sandbags go to you. You can use them as sandbags. I had to go find another part where there's sandbags that go behind you and in front of you, and different sandbags are worth negative points, but some sandbags you can use. Elements of the game are definitely confusing to go into. Like, do not take the little overview that I just did as a how to play in the game. But that said, once you get past that, there's an interesting little puzzle of trying to figure out how to win or lose in the game, or how to lose in the game most commonly, where to save your rockets, where to place your rockets, lots of fun little things like that going on. I overall enjoyed it. I don't know if I was amazed by it. The theme doesn't help me either. Like, I'm not really pulled in by the art or theme of the game, but to me it's a decent game that definitely gave me enough of a puzzle or challenge. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. Outside of that, what do we have for you next? We have two more. We have the Feds and we have the Feds and Tichu. Let's do Tichu last. Let's do the Feds over here. The Feds are going to be from Dr. Finn's games. This is a... Is it area control? I guess it's area control. A little bit of area control, a little bit of simultaneous play. The basic idea, and let's zoom out our camera a drop on this one over here. Let's zoom out a drop. There we go. There we go. Okay, we're going to have basically a little bit of a setup over here. So you're going to have a city you place, whatever the city might be. The city's going to give you different rules for the game you play. And there's a whole bunch of different cities, so you have all these different options. They all give a small rules adjustments to the game that you're playing. Outside of that, players are going to have their own little hideout mats over here. So let's go ahead and put one there. Let's put it a little more in here so you can see how it goes, even though it's going to block our thing. And then we'll show you some more stuff as we go. But let's go ahead. We have New York as well, another city. And then we have the club. We have the docks, we have the restaurant, and the warehouse. I probably should have zoomed out a bit more. But you have 4 different locations on the board that are, you can't really see them right now, but you'll get the general idea. So you have 4 locations on the board, and then players are going to have a hand of cards, as well as a first player marker. We're going to have a whole bunch of these little thugs, which I'm going to put down a bunch on each zone. You would have 8 on each zone, but I'm not going to fully count it out right now, because I just want to, maybe I will, for the sake of accuracy. We're going to put this down over here. And then here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then down here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. We have all our things, and here's the last one in case you want to see it. Okay, so we have that over there, and then players are going to be taking their hands of cards, and there are some other things. I'm not going to get into every little detail, but you have a hand of cards of specifically 7 cards, and players are going to be placing the card, going with they're going to all select a card, and let's say whatever the card is, they're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then choose a spot that they're placing on their office board, meaning they're basically assigning this person to the club. But all players have done that simultaneously on their own boards. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to go ahead and say that this is what happened over here. Starting with the first player, you're going to go ahead and resolve a card. So you take this card over here, and we're going to place this one in the club, which is the first spot. They go down there as a mall. The next player, in turn order, let's say that was blue, is going to resolve their card. They're going to go to the docks as a mall. But then the third player is going to go ahead again to the club, which is going to take the mall and put him out over here as the rookie. So now we have a 4 in this location, and 4, by the way, is the highest card. So currently, without knowing more, this location currently is going to be won by red. That's the way that's going to play out, okay? So you're going to do that 7 times, placing out 7 cards total. When all the cards are done, effectively you're going to look at each location, you're going to go resolve them one at a time. You're first going to take any residual moles and put them into play. But you're going to have a whole string of cards here. This would not be the way it plays out. Let's just go ahead and simulate that one location. So let's pretend we have another 3 over here. There's also an ability on that. We'll talk about that later. You have a 3 over here. And actually, let's go ahead. Yeah, that's actually a good way to do this. Let's resolve it as if that was the situation right now. So right now, red has a total of 7. So at the end of the game, after everyone's played 7 cards, red has 7, which means red picks one color over here and takes that color. They'll go ahead and take the 2 oranges, and you'll explain why shortly. But then from there, yellow and blue are tied, and yellow is closer to the club, so yellow is going to go ahead and take first. Whoever's closer to the club takes first if there's a tie. So yellow is going to select the 3 pink. Then blue gets to select a color, and blue is going to go ahead and select the wild, and then from there red goes again, red will select the green, and yellow will select this, and that's going to be the division over there. You're going to resolve that for each location, and then players are going to place their tokens on these spots. So for example, right now, if this were the end of the game, and red were going, red would currently have 3 plus 10 points from those locations because they took the more powerful, the more beneficial meeples in the game. They took those. So knowing the colors you want over here is going to be a big deal. Trying to determine your area control at each location is a big deal. Using the abilities is going to be a big deal because each location is going to give you different ability meanings for the 3 different abilities. In your hand of cards, you're going to have, these are going to be the hand you have. So you have a single 4, you have 2 3s over here, you have 2 2s and 2 1s, but each of your 3, 2, and 1 do have an ability that will vary based on the location. That's the general idea. It's got a little bit of a fast-paced, simultaneous play, trying to figure out where to put your cards, where to fight people, where to back off, where to get those extra second-place meeples, because you're going to get a bunch of meeples in the game, and how you get and score those meeples is going to determine how well you do. So it's, to me, this is a 15-20 minute game. It plays pretty quickly. It teaches pretty quickly. It gives you enough to think about. It gives you the variability from the various cities. I don't think it wowed me per se, but I do think I enjoyed what the game is doing. If you're looking for a quick filler game in which you're trying to place cards down at different locations as fast as possible, not as fast as possible, but as idealistically as possible, or whatever you want to call it, trying to optimize around what you think players are going to do, trying to use the abilities as well. There's a lot, and the abilities also require timing, because your abilities only resolve when your mole gets revealed, which means the turn you play an ability is usually not the turn the ability gets resolved. You will hopefully get bumped by somebody else at some point and then be able to use it. So planning the timing around that, and of course you can always guarantee that you bump yourself next turn, but trying to plan around the timing, that's a big deal in the game. Overall enjoyed this. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. And then lastly, we have Tichu. This is an older game, and if you're like, why are you reviewing such an older game right now? It's because I finally had a chance to play this game. Tichu, I don't even know if I can explain this game. I don't think I'm going to try to explain this game. I don't, because honestly, at some point in the future, I will do a full gameplay of this, a 4-player gameplay, and teach, because I think it's one of the funniest things ever to teach this game. Tichu is kind of like Rummy. Okay. Kind of like Rummy. The general idea is you're trying to play sets to beat other sets. So you're going to have hands of cards, you're trying to go round and around playing sets to beat other sets. So if you play 2 2s, I'll play 2 7s, and you'll play, 2 9s. You're trying to get higher and higher as you go through it. And you can play sets of, higher cards or whatever. You can also play a straight. You can play a 1 2 3 4 5 6, and then someone has to play a higher. Someone can play a 2 3 4 5 6 7. And so you're trying to basically play these sets to beat other sets, and there's a lot of edge case rules. But part of the game that's interesting is there's teams. It's you and your partner. Basically, it's a 3 to 10 player game, but the only way I've played this so far is teams of 2. You have you and your partner, and against, another team of another partners, and you're trying to figure out how to work together with your teammate to make sure you end up with the wins. And that's where we get into these whole edge cases of there's something called Tichu, something called Grand Tichu. There's a lot of other things going on, but I'd say the general gameplay is you get dealt a hand of cards, you try to determine the value of your hand of cards, you make predictions around that, so it's got elements of trick taking and elements of Rummy kind of mixed together in a mess of an experience that is also a delight. I understand I'm not giving you like a very consistent rules overview here, because I think the rules of Tichu are almost a comedy routine unto itself, but it is a good game by the time you're done with it. A very rewarding game that I really love the partner play in this, of trying to read your partner and trying to figure out if you really have control of everything going on. There's also special power cards. I think there's 4 of those if I recall correctly. I think Tichu is brilliant. I don't know if I'm ever going to do a full review on this one, because it's a really older game. Like, it's a very older game that's been around for quite some time. I ignored it for years. I do think this is going to bounce hard off of some people and land really well with others. But I would say if you have 4 people who like trick-taking games, let's put that as like a genre, I think this is a good one to play. Just divide up into teams of 2, teach the rules, laugh doing the process, and then go ahead and just go through a team-based game where you figure out whether you can get one over the other team. It's a lot of hand management, but similar to poker or trick-taking, even if you get a poor hand, there's ways to mitigate around those experiences. Let's teach you. It's a delightful experience, very, very well done, very mean, and very rewarding, but a lot that you have to know and plan around. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. I like this way more than I thought I would for such a crazy, chaotic game that I don't even know how to explain this. I don't know how to explain this. I don't. I'll try to do a gameplay on the channel at some point so you can see the chaos that this game is, both with the teach and with the gameplay. Anyways, that's going to be your 6 small box reviews over here. We have 9 Lives, Find Finley, and Monster Chase all getting 3s out of 5s. We have Sandbag and Feds getting a 3.5, and we have Tichu getting a 4 out of 5. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.